Hi everyone, welcome to my Facebook Live. I wanted to jump on here a couple minutes early to make sure that everyone has time to join. So I will officially start in approximately 4 minutes. Yeah, if you're out there, please join me. I'm so excited to meet you as much as you can over Facebook. Yeah. Oh, I see that someone's here. Yay! So exciting. So yeah, if you're here, drop a note in the comments and let me know who you are and where you're from. It's so fun to see where people are and what you do. But in case you don't know, my name is Melanie. I am a dietitian who is certified in both geriatric and renal nutrition. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit, mostly about kidney stones. We'll also touch on a little bit about kidney disease. So yeah, I'm excited to get started. Make sure I have everything set up here. Hi. Oh, it's Leah. Hi, Leah. I thought about trying to pick some really great music for this 5 minutes before I start. And the NSYNC song I just got paid kept coming to mind. So I wish that I had that set up, but I didn't have time to get my act together. Hi, everyone. I see that people are joining. This is so exciting. Let me know who you are and where you're from if you'd like in the comment box. And I'll get started in 2 minutes now. Hi, everyone. If you just joined, my name is Melanie, and I will get started in just a minute or so as we let people join to chat a little bit about kidney stones and kidney disease. Hi, Autumn. Oh, Louisiana. Awesome. So I am super bummed. I know you said you're from Baton Rouge, but I'm super bummed because I was supposed to go to New Orleans last March for the National Kidney Foundation meeting, literally like two weeks after COVID happened. So I was super bummed that I got duped out of going to New Orleans then, and then of course I got duped out of New Orleans again with Fancy getting cancer, going virtual this year too. So I'm jealous that you're in a nice warm place. I'm very excited that it's 40 degrees here today. It's nice and warm. All right. All right, so it is 1 o'clock my time here in Chicago, so I will go ahead and get started. So a little bit of background about me. My name is Melanie Betz, and I am a dietitian. I live in Chicago. I currently work at the University of Chicago. I'm hired by the section of nephrology, so I deal with kidney patients all day long, every day. So a little bit about how I got here. I grew up in rural Michigan in a very small town called Eaton Rapids, Michigan, about a half hour south of Lansing. And then I went to Michigan State, go green, for my undergrad. And then I graduated, and that brought me to Chicago, where I went to Rush University for my dietetic internship and master's degree. So after I graduated from Rush in 2011, um, I've had quite a few jobs. I originally worked as a consultant for a while with Roche dietitians, and then I actually went back to Rush and I worked there for about 3.5 years and did a lot with geriatrics. I did a lot of teaching and precepting, specifically in the geriatric realm. So I did that. I had a brief hiatus. I worked at US Foods, which was a really, really interesting experience. And I worked with their menu program, planning menus for long term care. But ultimately, really missed working with patients and being in an academic setting. And about 3.5 years ago, which is crazy, time flies, I saw this opening at the University of Chicago in the section of nephrology. And that is what brought me to nephrology. I truly just kind of fell into it, but it's been really, really wonderful. And I've learned so much, specifically about kidney stones. And it's also a really interesting time for kidney disease as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I also, about a year ago, started a blog called it's The Kidney Dietitian. If you just go to thekidneydietitian.org, that's been sort of my quarantine project. And it's been a really, really interesting journey. I've learned so much about how Google works in the online world and what dietitians can do online, which I had no idea was a thing previously, honestly. It's been a fun project. So if you want to check that out, like I said, it's thekidneydietitian.org. You can also follow me on Instagram at the kidney dietitian, or on Facebook. And I also actually have Pinterest as well. So I will put in the comments, I'll put all of my social media handles so you can check me out if you're at all interested. Um, I wanted to spend most of my time talking about kidney stones because I find that this is an area that I certainly knew nothing about previously. I feel like I knew nothing about kidney stones, and I've learned so much. And so I'm excited for this opportunity to chat a little bit about and kind of share what I wish that every dietitian knew about kidney stones. Oh, thanks, Janelle. That's so exciting. Thanks for reading. All right. So ultimately, the big picture message that I hope that everyone gets from my Facebook Live today in terms of kidney stones is that a nutrition for kidney stones has to be so individualized. There are many different kinds of kidney stones, and a healthy diet for each one is really different based on the type of kidney stone that someone is forming, and it actually should even be even more specialized from there. So even for calcium oxalate kidney stones, which are by far the most common type of kidney stone, about 80-ish% of kidney stones are made of calcium oxalate. So that's generally what we talk about. But even within calcium oxalate, people who have calcium oxalate kidney stones, there are a lot of different urine risk factors that someone could have. And it's pretty cool because you can actually target those specific nutrition risks or those urine risk factors for kidney stones with diet, which is pretty cool. And you can really help just make sure that whatever recommendations or interventions that you're doing are as fruitful as possible and as effective as possible. So I thought that I would spend a little bit of time walking through some of the more common urine risk factors for calcium oxalate kidney stones, and just help everyone understand a little bit about what we can do for them. So before I do that, I think it's important to know, how do you even know what someone's urine risk factors are for calcium oxalate kidney stones? And really the only way that we can know exactly how to treat them, both from a medical standpoint and nutrition standpoint, is to have them do a 24-hour urine test. And a 24-hour urine test will give you so much information about truly like how you can target your intervention. So first and foremost, it's going to tell you how much urine someone is making, which is probably the most important thing, right? Ultimately for kidney stone prevention is to make sure that someone is drinking enough water. So the recommendations say that you want people to be drinking enough water to produce about 2.5 liters of urine per day, which for most people equates to approximately 3 liters of fluid per day, assuming that you lose a little bit through like breathing, feces, right, all that sort of stuff. So so that's the first thing that 24-hour urine test is going to give us, is truly give an actual objective measurement of how much water someone is drinking, which is so important. So when we think about what are those urine risk factors that people could have for calcium oxalate kidney stones, the most common risk factor, the thing that is contributing for most people to their risk of calcium oxalate kidney stones, is actually high urine calcium. I feel like we spend a whole lot of time talking about oxalate in the kidney stone world, and that's next on my list to talk a little bit about oxalate, but really high urine calcium is what drives kidney stone formation for most people. And I also think it's really interesting that we don't really know the cause of that high urine calcium in most cases. There are a lot of different medical conditions that contribute to high urine calcium, and we can control those in different ways. But ultimately, most of the high urine calcium or hypercalciuria is idiopathic. Like it just happens, and we don't really know why that is. For whatever reason, the body just really wants that urine calcium to be high. Yes, so that high urine calcium is something that we can target with nutrition. So this is where the sodium thing comes in. I know in kidney stone world, you always hear like, oh, you can't eat salt. And that is the main reason why is that the more salt that you eat, the more calcium ends up in your urine. So that is a very powerful way that we can help as dietitians to get that urine calcium down and reduce someone's risk of kidney stones. The next risk factor that someone might have for calcium oxalate kidney stones is a low urine pH or too much acid in your urine. So you can actually impact someone's urine pH by reducing how much protein they're eating, usually to around 0.8 grams per kilogram of protein per day, and also increasing the amount of alkali that they eat, which is primarily just fruits and vegetables. The more fruits and vegetables you eat, the more base is produced in your body, and that can literally help neutralize the acid from the protein that you're eating. So yes, so that's the second thing that we can do to help reduce the risk of kidney stones. Oh, I also wanted to say, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment box. I love questions, so feel free to pipe up if something I say doesn't make any sense. So yes, so that second urine risk factor is low urine pH. Urine pH is kind of tricky because if it gets too high, you actually put someone at risk for calcium phosphate kidney stones. But that is those are much less common, but just something to be wary of is that you don't want to just keep raising that urine pH, exponentially. Ultimately, there's sort of a finite range where you want that urine pH to be. So yes, so we've got high urine calcium, low urine pH, and the next one is high oxalate. So of course, because most kidney stones are calcium oxalate, when you have very high levels of oxalate in your urine, that does increase your risk of kidney stones. But like I said, oxalate is a really finicky tricky thing to work with for lots of different reasons. And I think it's really important to know that really the most effective way to lower how much oxalate is in someone's urine is actually to increase how much calcium they're eating, which is super counterintuitive because I just told you that that we want to actually lower urine calcium. But bear with me, let me explain that a little bit more. So calcium loves to bind with oxalate, right? That's why calcium oxalate kidney stones form. And so if we eat foods that have oxalate in them with calcium foods, that calcium and oxalate will actually bind in your intestines and make that oxalate unavailable to be absorbed into your body and ultimately excreted in your urine, which is pretty cool. Yes, because we know that foods that are high in foods like high oxalate foods are really good foods, like spinach and nuts and beets. These things are very good for most people, right? And so it's really great that we can reduce how much oxalate is absorbed and let people enjoy a lot of these higher oxalate foods if we just pair those meals with calcium. And we know from studies that truly the most effective way to lower urine oxalate is not necessarily putting them on a super strict low oxalate diet. It's really actually making sure that they are eating enough calcium. So a note on calcium, because we want to keep urine calcium down as much as possible, since that is the biggest contributor to kidney stones, you really want to get that calcium from food as much as possible as opposed to supplements. Because for whatever reason, calcium from supplements tends to raise urine oxalate a whole lot more than calcium that naturally occurs in food. So in like obviously cheese, milk, yogurt, and that sort of thing. So yes. So we really want that calcium to come from food to bind that oxalate and ultimately reduce the amount of oxalate in the urine. Oh, and we have some questions. I'll take a break. So Leah's asking, is there any truth in following an alkaline diet when it comes to kidney stones? So yes, but I hate that word because I feel like it's so I don't know, it's in like all these like fad diet things, right? So yes, there is truth to following an alkaline diet, but I think it's maybe done in a different way than what would happen if you just like Googled it, right? So an alkaline diet to me means a diet that is moderate in protein because protein, especially animal protein, is ultimately metabolized to acid, whereas in fruits and vegetables are going to produce base or alkali, and it will improve, counteract that acid and ultimately have beneficial impacts in your urine. So yes, an alkaline diet basically just means not eating a ton of protein and eating your fruits and vegetables. I don't think for most people there's a lot of room for like the alkaline waters and like all that stuff because they're just not really supported by research. And yeah, so I guess I'll like I feel like so yes, and if you Google an alkaline diet, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that says like, oh, these vegetables are so much better than these ones. I'm like, no, like we just want people to be eating their fruits and vegetables and not eating a ton of meat. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to. And the second question is, says, are you seeing patients who follow a high protein diet, like a carnivore diet, who develop kidney stones? Yes, I definitely have. Trying to remember specifically, I've seen a couple who have come up that do the like forks over knives thing, which I think is very carnivore-y, caveman-y, right? I think. I'm trying to think other ones. I've definitely seen keto patients. The other thing that I feel like comes up even more often, and this is just in my experience, I feel like I see a lot of patients who come to me because they've been doing a lot of like juicing or like green smoothies. And I think, if you just think about like how much stuff goes into those smoothies, you're eating so much more spinach, for example, which is so high in oxalate. You're just eating so much more than you probably would if you were just like eating spinach in a salad. And so I feel like I see a lot of patients who put themselves into kidney stones via smoothies and juicing. I've actually also had patients who have had oxalate nephropathy from juicing. A patient who actually put herself into stage 4 kidney disease and she hasn't recovered from going on this juice cleanse regimen. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of harm could be done to your kidneys for doing all of these crazy fad diets. That's for sure. Um, so yes, I'm trying to remember. Oh yes, back to my urine risk factors. So we were talking about calcium, and so with the most effective way to really lower that urine oxalate is to get that calcium in. And I was going to say that most patients that I see, if we just take out kind of those top 5 super duper high oxalate foods and get in calcium again, their urine oxalate is fine. Like if they just stop eating spinach, beets, almonds, miso is randomly really high, but if they happen to be eating a lot of miso for whatever reason, and rhubarb, if you just take out those things, and I mean, some of those things are more obscure. Generally, it comes down to almonds and spinach. If you just take those out and get milk in, then most patients are good. And so I don't even give my giant oxalate list of high and low, medium foods to people because if we just take those out for most people, it's totally fine. So Janelle says, in regards to calcium phosphate stones, is high urine pH a problem if supersaturation of CAP is within normal range? Biggest diet changes you focus on those patients. So Janelle, I think your question is like, so is high urine pH an issue if everything else is fine? No, I think as long as that calcium is within normal range and phosphorus isn't super high, like your risk of kidney stones is ultimately going to be really fine as evidenced by that supersaturation of calcium phosphate. And honestly, in terms of high urine pH, there's not a lot we can do from a nutrition standpoint to lower it. Like it's probably high because of other stuff that's going on. And so I'm not going to make dietary changes necessarily to lower that urine pH because like what would I say? I would say go eat a ton of protein and stop eating fruits and vegetables, which is obviously going to have other issues, right? So that's a really good question. Yeah, so it may be an issue, but as long as all those other factors are within range, specifically that supersaturation of CAP, then your risk of kidney stones is probably pretty low. Um, yeah, great questions. Thank you for those. Um, so, all right, so we talked about oxalate. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention about oxalate is the role of vitamin C. So, your body can actually make oxalate from vitamin C. There's so much to know about oxalate. I feel like I could talk for 5 hours just about oxalate. The oxalate in our urine comes both from the oxalate that we eat and also what our liver makes. Our liver can make oxalate, and it can make oxalate from a couple different things, most notably vitamin C. And specifically, we're worried about vitamin C supplements. Like, you're probably not going to eat so many oranges that you're going to have this crazy high intake of vitamin C and contribute to urine oxalate. But we do see a very high or that vitamin C supplements can contribute quite a bit to that urine oxalate. So whenever you're working with calcium kidney stone patients, I definitely encourage them to cut out all vitamin C supplements. There's one study that showed that vitamin C supplementation accounted for 50% of urine oxalate. So that's significant, especially when you consider that if you're just eating your fruits and vegetables, it's pretty easy to get enough vitamin C from those. I think one orange has like all of the vitamin C you need in a day, right? So, yes. All right, so that's urine oxalate. A lot to know about that. The next risk factor that someone might have for calcium oxalate kidney stones is low citrate. So citrate is a really interesting molecule because it actually stops kidney stones from forming. So citrate can bind with calcium and ultimately stops that from binding from oxalate and reduces our risk of stones. And they think that urine citrate is a really powerful predictor of kidney stone formation. So I think it's interesting that a lot of people like you and I, if you haven't had kidney stones, might be walking around with really high levels of calcium and oxalate, but obviously most people don't form kidney stones. But that citrate in our urine is really protective, and that alone can sort of be the difference between someone making a stone or not. And so having that low urine citrate is a big deal, and we want to do everything we can to raise it. And this one is a little bit more tricky. And this one is targeted a lot with drugs oftentimes. So there's a drug called potassium citrate that is often given to kidney stone patients as a way to increase that citrate. But from a nutrition standpoint, again, just eating fruits and vegetables will give people citrate and help those levels come up. Of course, citrus fruits are going to have more citrate than others, but truly any fruit or vegetable is going to have a beneficial impact in this area. And I'm trying to think of other things doing with citrate. Oh, so this is why oftentimes you hear people say that we should be drinking lemon juice to help with kidney stones, and that's because lemon juice has a fair amount of citrate in it. I think this is a tricky one because it's not probably going to help everyone, right? Like if someone doesn't have low urine citrate, adding that lemon juice probably isn't going to have that big of an impact, right? Plus, you have to think about how much someone needs. So, and it depends on how low your levels are, but generally like a half cup of lemon juice, of straight lemon juice, is what someone would need to really kind of move the needle in terms of urine citrate, which is quite a bit. So like telling someone to squeeze a little bit of lemon in their water, like that's not going to hurt anything, but probably isn't really going to make that big of a difference. So I think it's really important to work with patients and make sure your intervention is you're giving them enough to actually make a difference in terms of kidney stone prevention, right? Interestingly, Crystal Light lemonade has a very high amount of citrate in it. So especially since people are supposed to be drinking a lot of fluid anyway, if someone enjoys that, Crystal Light lemonade can be a really good way to get that citrate in someone's diet. And lemon juice, like if someone is willing to just, I guess, like do shots of lemon juice, I guess that would be fine. But lemonade in particular is an issue because of all the sugar. We don't want people drinking tons of lemonade every day for just general reasons. We don't want people drinking a ton of sugar, but also sugar added sugar can increase urine calcium as well. And so we want to be really, really careful with that sugar piece. Um, that's scary about juicing and the high amounts of stuff like spinach, vitamin C. Yeah, it is scary. I am afraid of juice myself. It's an unfortunate side effect, I guess, of working with patients with kidney stones. Um, yeah. So, all right. Citrate. Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit more about oxalate. I don't know if anyone has any other questions about oxalate, but I feel like at least when I'm working with patients and when I'm the comments that I get on Instagram and on my website and everything, the oxalate thing is what kind of is all that comes up in the kidney stone conversation, and I think that's really unfortunate, I guess, because people are really missing the point. Like, truly, the most effective way to reduce your risk of kidney stones has to be specialized on your urine risk factors. But overall, the biggest things that I care way, way more about than oxalate is how much salt you're eating, how much protein you're eating, and that you're eating your fruits and vegetables. And unfortunately, I feel like when we just push oxalate over and over and over and over again, people just hear, "Oh gosh, I can't eat these things," and it ultimately results in a less healthy diet because they cut out all of these otherwise really healthy fruits and vegetables. And so, however we go about this oxalate conversation, we have to be really careful to not make people be eating less healthy diets, right? And I think it's interesting to note that there are no studies that have shown reduced oxalate intake results in less kidney stones, which is crazy, right? So we do know that lowering how much oxalate you eat does lower how much oxalate is in your urine. But there's so many other factors that play into kidney stone formation. It just that connection truly has never been made, which I think is kind of crazy. In fact, if anything, there's been studies that have shown that a higher oxalate intake or diets that are higher in oxalate are associated with reduced risk of kidney stones. Most specifically, a DASH diet has been over and over and over again has been shown to be protective against kidney stones. And you would assume that a DASH diet is pretty high in oxalate because these people are eating about 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. A DASH diet pushes nuts and seeds. So I guess what I would love for everyone to remember is that we don't need to have everyone who has kidney stones to be on a low oxalate diet, and even people who have calcium oxalate kidney stones, we don't necessarily need to push the oxalate thing all the time. And I think it's really, really important to work with your doctors and get those 24-hour urine tests ordered to be able to really target MNT for these people to really help reduce the risk of stones. So awesome. Okay, so I have a little bit that I wanted to talk about kidney disease. So if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of totally switch gears here, and talk a little bit about CKD as well. So CKD it's such an interesting time in kidney disease nutrition, and I feel like it's truly totally different than what I learned about in school literally just 10 years ago. And I think a lot of that stems from the really big shift in kind of what we've learned, or at least are focusing on in terms of the bioavailability of phosphorus. So I don't know about you guys, but in school I've learned that renal diet is like white rice and chicken, right? Like, we're so afraid of these patients eating phosphorus, which is like whole grains and beans and nuts and seeds. But really, we know that the phosphorus in those natural sources is not very well absorbed. So only like 20-ish% of phosphorus in those natural food sources is absorbed, compared to phosphorus from meat, which is absorbed at like 80-ish%. And phosphorus that is added to foods as food additives is actually 100% absorbed. And so just kind of knowing those things has really shifted the way that we think about what a healthy renal or kidney diet is, to getting these patients to be eating, honestly, what we sort of knew was a healthy diet for all these other reasons anyway, right? Just trying to getting these patients to eat plant foods, which is just really, really interesting. Okay. Hi, I just want to take this question. So since you became a kidney RD, has this changed how you eat? That's a really great question. Probably. I don't know. I feel like I've had lots of different jobs as I talked about, and I feel like every time that I've shifted, like before I used to work in geriatrics, so I was like, oh, protein all the time. So I feel like I probably probably have been more gun shy in terms of how much protein I eat. Even though there's no research to show that a high protein diet causes kidney disease. But yeah, I think I probably have. And I definitely feel like like tried to do more plant-based meals and just try to eat more beans, kind of for the environmental impact too, probably a little bit, but I think I probably have been a little bit more gun shy in terms of eating like beef all the time. um, is there a genetic factor to kidney stones? Yes. Yep, definitely. We need a lot more research in terms of what that genetic factor is, but there definitely is a genetic factor in terms of that hypercalciuria um, component, like that high levels of urine calcium that we just don't really understand why. So there definitely is some genetic component to it, but diet and lifestyle plays a huge role in who is going to form most kidney stones. So yeah. Um, all right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about kidney disease. Um, ultimately, I guess the two things that that I really want everyone to know about for kidney disease is that we really need to sort of rethink what a healthy renal diet is, and really not be so gun shy recommending beans and whole grains and nuts and seeds and lentils to patients with kidney disease because that phosphorus isn't absorbed, and we know that those plant proteins are really actually protective and are not associated with a faster progression of CKD like animal proteins are. So much to know about kidney health and nutrition. um, all right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Awesome. So I wanted to end just with some recommendations for places to learn more, some resources for kidney stones. There's honestly not that many, and I'm going to be a little bit self-serving and recommend my website, especially for kidney stones. Again, it's just thekidneydietitian.org. I'm posting a lot more this year. That's one of my goals, so you can check that out. Also, the University of Chicago Kidney Stone website. So Dr. Ko is one of the nephrologists that I work with, and he has done quite a bit of research in terms of kidney stones, and is very pro nutrition and diet and lifestyle uh, as part of treatment. And he has a very extensive website and tons of articles that he's been putting up for years. They're very sciencey, so they're probably better for dietitians as opposed to patients for the most part. But I definitely wanted to direct you there if that is something that you're interested in really diving into. And there is also a nurse, actually, whose name is Jill Harris, who worked with Dr. Ko years ago, who has now a website. So you can check out her website. That's thekidneystonediet.com. Oh, thank you for all the comments. I agree. Renal nutrition is the coolest. Oh, someone worked with Dr. Ko. Darlene, that's so cool. Small world. All right. So yes, so those are my three recommendations for kidney stones is check out my website, thekidneydietitian.org. For the University of Chicago one, if you just Google University of Chicago kidney stones, it'll definitely be the first thing. And then Jill Harris, who is thekidneystonediet.com. Any good textbook resources? I do not know of any good textbooks um, off the top of my head. But I can definitely post. I'll in the comments. I'll post my favorite research articles that you can go check out because there's some pretty good kind of overviews of kidney stone nutrition. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed here. Yeah, I'll definitely post post my favorite research articles, and you can hopefully learn a little bit more. And then for kidney disease, I really wanted to mention a book actually put out by a nephrologist. His name is Blake Schusterman. If you just, it's on Amazon. It's if you just Google the cooking doc kidney book, it's a really long title, but it's on Amazon, and it's a really, really great overview of health, of sort of this modern view of healthy renal diet. And there's also lots of really good recipes in there too. And I actually collaborated with him and helped him a little bit writing that book. So if you want to check that out, that's a really great resource. Yeah. All right, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me. I will post my website and my social media handles in the comments. Again, if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's The Kidney Dietitian. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Bye.